Thought I was in.
Go.
Hello, welcome to Wounds with a View. We've got Birdie, Rose, Iris, the Ecuadorian mom, K.Lang, the deprogrammer, and Amy Souza, DJ Lippy. Hello, everyone. Yeah, holla, holla, holler.
Hey.
Oh, hey.
Hi.
Hey.
So please tell us about LA and how it was and what it was like.
Yeah, it's well, this has been exciting. Obviously, all of the USA activists, and whether they call themselves TERFs or feminists or GC or whatnot, we've all been very excited that Kelly J. Keene is bringing her speakers corners here and doing a huge USA tour. And it's already starting off with a bang. We're so excited for her, helping promote what we've been doing here. We have been doing some of our own free speech events, but I think her bringing her brightness and her clout and her documentary crew to the States is really helping to amplify and give a nice foundation to what we've been doing in the States. And I really want to do a nice shout out to the LA crew, which included Belissa Cohen and Amy Ichikawa and Gay Chapman and Gigi LaRue.
They've all been on this show, I think. They're all like stalwarts.
Yeah. They had about 4 days to pull that all together, and they did. K.Lang and I did a joint live stream covering that. We got people with a couple different cameras, so we could have people on screen. We could be showing the crowd shots and interacting with our at-home audience, but it was such a beautiful thing, and I don't know if you ladies caught it, but it was and maybe K.Lang can speak to this more, but one of the best parts of it was that Amy Ichikawa of Women to Women actually in the moment had a phone call with a currently incarcerated woman who shared her story at the Speakers Corner event. So it was one of those like tingly, goosebumps moments.
It was definitely. As soon as I saw that happen, I thought, what? Wait, this is gold. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's really exemplifies using your position and using your voice to, to help amplify the voice of women that are unheard. And that's really important. And that's a big part of what we're trying to do, right? Because we don't have a lot of people that are comfortable coming out in public and speaking about this issue yet. There are a lot of people that have been silenced for a lot of different reasons, and you can see all the different scare tactics, the violence, the intimidation, the threats, the loss of jobs and income that people are facing. There's all of these reasons why people don't want to come out. And then beneath that, there's just the fact that there are so many people who are living just as women who are living under the daily drudgery of living in a capitalist society, of raising their kids, of living under a male supremacy and violence, who don't even have the time or the energy to even know what's going on or be able to research it or be involved like we do. Who don't necessarily have the means or the resources to put themselves out there and say these things. And we're trying to speak for not just ourselves as individual women, but all women as a sexed class, and to highlight the voices of the most marginalized and the most underrepresented. And that's exactly what Amy Ichikawa, the founder of Women to Women, that's exactly what she did when she got us directly in contact with the voice of a woman who is currently incarcerated and platformed her on the microphone at Kelly J. Keen's speaker corner in LA. It was amazing. Like, that's what it looks like, women working together to center the most marginalized and the most endangered women in society. And women in prison are kind of like the canary in the coal mine. This has all been pushed on them before it reached us on the outside. They're facing the extreme violence and repercussions of males being forced into female spaces. Unlike any other women in this country, they are locked in with violent male predators and rapists, as we all know. And this is happening all around the world. So this isn't just a US specific problem. This is a global issue being pushed by global governing bodies. And that's why it's so important that women across the world are working together. And that's why I'm elated that Kelly J. Keen decided to come to the US and work with all of us to highlight women's resistance and voices of American women that have been fighting back. And this is a really powerful move of solidarity, and I'm all for it.
Yeah. I mean, her story was just so powerful and on its own. Well, it's horrendously powerful. I mean, listening to what they had to go through when they were searched, you know, right through to what they have to put up with once they're in there with the men. Yeah, it's good to hear it firsthand always. And that's the power of Speaker's Corner.
I think that's it, isn't it? It's let women speak, and it's the women who don't have access to the internet, even like if you get kicked off just for saying trans women are men, you know, like you haven't got any recourse to speak your truth. And I think one thing that's so powerful is all the ordinary women who come along, and first time they've ever spoken might be at one of these events, and then from that they could go off and become an amazing advocate, not only for themselves but for the rights of other women more vulnerable than themselves. And I think that's one thing I've seen is women using their platforms to raise issues about, like you say, the women in prison, which I think doesn't get in hardly enough traction in the media. It seems to be sports and children is something that people can understand, but when it comes to women in prisons, I think that's one thing that it struggles to impact and make people.
And that really says a lot to how devalued incarcerated women are in general. They're completely seen as they don't even exist. They don't matter. We don't have to think about them at all whatsoever. So, you know, this highlights just how much incarcerated women in the US are struggling as it is just to be heard. And that's something that Amy Ichikawa has been doing with her work as well. Like, they don't just talk about like how women are being forced into cells with male predators. They're also talking about the entire gamut of what is affecting incarcerated women and how they're being like completely dehumanized. And any of us could become an incarcerated woman. Anyone.
Absolutely.
To be
Especially
fair,
with Labour getting in the UK.
yeah, the way the law is going, we there by the grace of God, we will all be there soon. You know.
Exactly. We see criminalization increasing here and there too. I can speak to more here, but what's going on over there with the criminalization?
Well, Labour Party, they want to. I'm worried that, sorry, I'm taking over a little bit. I'm worried that they're going to get in for like the first time in my life. I'm worried. And I'm worried that they've proved that they don't care about the people anymore. They used to be like the party for the little people and the working class. And they don't care about that anymore. All they care about is pronouns and paedophiles. That's all they care about. So I'm worried that the first thing they're going to do is put women like us in prison. And I'll never, ever fucking forgive the left for this. I'll never forgive them. So that's my little rant. Back to what you said as well. Women in prison are so dehumanized that nobody even wants to think about them, let alone talk about them. They think about, like, if you talk about women in prison, the first thing people say is, well, they're in prison, they're bad people. What are we talking about them for? Why do we care about them? It's fucking disgusting.
Awful. And I will say this real quick, sorry, but my mom's friend who was in the pen in New Jersey for 10 years, you know, people always like to say, oh, but women are already raping each other in prison. She said, Tania, let me tell you this. In my 10 years of being in fucking prison, women are not raping other women in prison. It does not happen. She was like, we have girlfriends, we have consensual sex with each other, but we do not rape each other. She said, we're being raped and abused by the guards. She said the female guards just sit around and let all this shit happen. And she said, we're being raped by these men that think they're women. And she said, you wouldn't believe the amount of men in here. And they just, all I have to do is say, I think I'm a woman. I identify as a woman. She was like, what the fuck does that even mean? But she said, I will tell you this. Women are not raping women in prison.
You know, when the suffragists and the suffragettes originally, they're the ones who originally advocated for single-sex prisons. So it was largely the work of UK women who were advocating for this, and then basically the US suffragettes copied this model, but they were going into, for example, Sing Sing prison and looking at the conditions and making a case for why prisons needed to be single sex, because prisons, you know, originally were mixed sex places, but women were getting, you know, raped and harmed and abused and everything you can imagine. These women documented it, kept diaries, and this is why this is how women's prisons were created in the first place. And originally, women's prisons were run by female wardens, all female staff, female ward and female staff, because of course they also documented what was happening to the women by the guards. But then with a lot of the equal, unfortunately, one of the things that equal rights or equal access to jobs did, this was a little before Title IX, and maybe K.Lang, you know exactly what I'm speaking to, but because of this equal opportunity for jobs, it actually made it so that men could be guards and wardens in women's prisons, when that was not originally how they were built. So I think that's worth going into. And then one other thing that I wanted to say is that I thought it was so, one of the most important things in that woman's speech that Amy Ichikawa was sharing with us was, of course, she was talking about how she suffered abuse as a child, as young as 2, and that this led to her being in a position where she did not think her body was her own. It led to her being trafficked. It led to the whole reason for her incarceration. And of course, we know that it's like 80 or over 80% of all incarcerated women have faced abuse, and largely sexual abuse in their life. So these are already women who have faced violation. And she said in her speech that she was shocked for the first time. One of the things that happened is during that strip search that she was talking about, which was horrific, one of the women said no. And she talked about that being a pivotal, life-changing moment for her. And I think that that's a really pivotal part of why we do what we do, how we stand up, whether it's at our free speech events, whether it's at a protest, whether it's even online or on a show like this, because the power of one woman saying no, no, it has a huge reverberation and impact to the other women who hear it and say, I never knew I could say such a word. I didn't know I could say such a thing, you know, and that encouraged her to start fighting back as well. And even in prison, even within that system, she herself has started to fight back.
Nice when like stuff like that happens, when someone else, like another woman, says something like that makes you realize, like, I can be like that. I do have control of my body. It like triggers something in you that makes you feel embodied and realize, like, I do have control over my body. I can say no. I can tell people to fuck off, and I can be like, don't touch me, you know? It's really important.
Yeah, and this is exactly what young girls are being taught now that they can't do. They're being taught that they have no boundaries over their body. They can't say no, because saying no is mean and it's not being kind. So we need to be kind, which means we need to
Right.
allow men and boys access to the spaces of women and girls. We need to, girls and women need to stand down and have zero boundaries whatsoever. We have to never raise a concern about our safety. We have to never raise a concern about unfair treatment. That's what it means to be kind. And that's what they are indoctrinating our young girls with, not just here in America, but all over the world. And the US is exporting this ideology all over the world.
Mhm.
We are the home of queer theory. All the queer
Right.
theorists, queer theory was developed here in the US institutions. And yeah, a lot of the theorists always like look back to Foucault, and he was French, but he studied here in the US and he did a lot of his work here in the US. So yeah, this is the home of queer theory, and it's been completely proliferated within the American left and within the political activist organizing spaces. Everything has been completely taken over with queer theory over 10 years ago.
How does
It's not even new.
how does this impact? So I know in the UK we do the Speakers Corners events in the United Kingdom, and they've been really successful, I think, to raise awareness and I think in a way show the violence inherent in the discourse.
Yeah.
I know it's a cliche, but it's all punch a turf, kill a turf, what have you, and then you see it in real life and you can see it. But in the United States, I know you have a politically different scenario, and you have different politics to us. I just wondered a little bit about how the Speakers Corners events have worked in the US, and are they the same as in the United Kingdom, or how does the social milieu of America affect the events themselves and your activism more broadly?
Mhm.
I think, we're dealing with a bit of a different beast in the sense of how far apart we are. And I think that unfortunately does something to just it saps our resources in the sense that it's harder, there's a lot of us speaking out on this. Of course, there's, when you look at the numbers online, there are thousands and thousands of us. However, the country is so big that we're spread so far apart. So gathering together is, absolutely a lot harder. We can't, drive 3 hours to a central location and meet. For me, if I was going to drive, the flight to go see K.Lang is, a 6.5 to 8 hour flight, depending on whether there's a layover. So
all the money involved in travel.
You can't have a weekend. It's difficult to go and travel for an event and then come back and go to work, even if you have the money to do so. I imagine it's a barrier, isn't it?
But that being said, we have continued to do it. So we often gather in smaller numbers, whether it's, somewhere between 5 to maybe 20 women, if we can get that many all together. And K.Lang and Jennifer Thomas and I have actually been trying to compile a list of everything that we have done in the last 2 years. So we kind of started out with a little bit of a bang 2 years ago with the Women Picket DC, when we were protesting President Biden's executive order that was him putting into place replacing sex. Yep, there it is. She's got it right there. Replacing sex with the category of gender identity.
Conflating it, giving it precedence over fucking over biological sex. Crazy talk.
After that event, in the last 2 years, I'm kind of looking at our list right now, we've had about 60, maybe more. We're still kind of compiling them, 60 or more events. So there's been a ton of things happening, but it's really unfortunate. And there's a little bit of unfortunateness because only in the past year or so have we really been trying to capture them and put them on live streams. So there's a lot of those events that we have pictures of, but I think, and maybe K.Lang will speak more to this, but this is, something that I think was largely inspired by K.Lang, but we're really trying to document these because the documentation, that's the public record. That's
Yeah.
the record of our descent. And without documentation, you know, you lose a lot of momentum. So that's why, you know, myself and Jay Thomas have been trying to, you know, every time there's an event, even if it's on, you know, a different coast or far away, you know, trying to make sure that we get a live stream up so that everyone can participate. So even if there's only, you know, 6, 7 women who show up in Chicago, everyone can see it.
Yeah. And we can type our comments and stuff too when you guys are doing it, which is awesome. And it's just great. If I wasn't so broke, I would be coming out to see everybody everywhere all the time. I know I'm really, oh,
No, go ahead. Go ahead. finish.
like you go, no, you.
No, you.
I'm just gonna say I'm really excited about Virginia, and I know just Virginia alone, it's such a big state, and you know, I'm not originally from Virginia, but I have my group of local girls and local gals, wims, gines, whatever it is that doesn't offend the ladies. Want to do that, but you know, I'm like, KJK is coming, y'all. Let's get hype, and everyone's like, yes! And dropping like where they're at, and I'm just like, okay. We'll make the route. I'll get in touch with my homegirl Bonnie, because Bonnie like knows Virginia like the back of her hand, and she's like a super hype, like 75-year-old woman who's just been everywhere, and you wouldn't even realize it. She's so like, hello, I'm Bonnie. Like she's like very sweet, but she's like went to the first like Miss Atlantic City, Miss America beauty pageant protest. She was there, and she can tell you all about it, and I have a protest like poster of it. But we're gonna make a route, and we're gonna try to figure out how many drivers we have so we can just gather the ladies and pick them all up and just bring them all over to Loudon.
Well, I think this is one thing that's really underappreciated with these events, which is there's one aspect which is raising awareness, creating a buzz, getting CRAs and they're having a bit of an issue, and then filming things. But the main thing that I've always felt with these events and real life events is getting women in a room together and meeting in real life, because you need to be able to suss somebody out firsthand if you want to do activism. You don't know a person online until you met them on real life. Yeah. and I think, like you say, like you girls all working together, like let's come here and come there and pick them up, and then we'll go here. This is what the nature of the Speakers Corner events are about. I think it's not so much about what is said, it's about where it's said and that networking, and it's
journey to get there.
And I think that's a little bit where the events that we've had here in the US have been a little bit different, because yes, it's definitely important to get everybody together and, you know, actually feel the physical energy and all the things that you can get from being in physical space with one another. But like one of the biggest things is when we're getting together, we have to move hell and high water, spend $1 zillion, take time off of work, go like break our backs, get everything together to get somewhere. We have to be really focused and intentional when we get together, or we try to be. I try to be. I think like this, what you guys are doing with the Speakers Corners is a little bit different, because what you're doing is repeatable. It's over and over again. You have like similar locations that you go to, and it's very much like come one, come all, everybody speak. And here, you know, like a lot of our events have been very, we try to get people on topic, different people to speak to different aspects of this, because recognizing that our time together is very limited, you know, so we try to get the most bang for our buck when we get together. And I think that's a really important part of our strategy, or has been so far. But this is with the Speakers Corner. So this is really the first time I think there's such a rapid succession of so many, with Kelly J's tour, this is the first time there's such a rapid succession of so many different events in so many cities back to back. So we'll see, like, this is going to be totally different for us. And it's been really amazing to see different women on the ground, organizers, like really just like jump to and be like, okay, Like, we've got to get something together, you know, and there's been key women organizing in all different cities. And a lot of these women have been instrumental in raising the awareness that we've been able to establish thus far in the last 2 years. Like, a lot of us met in DC or organizing around DC and that was in 2021. That was March 8th, 2021. When we all first kind of got together, there was like a few hundred of us converged down at the National Monument in DC. And a lot of us met then. Amy, Souza, and I met then through that organizing. And there were just like a lot of different women representing a lot of different groups. Like, there were women representing like Free Birth Society and Save Women's Sports and Partners for Ethical Care and WDI and FIST and just all different kinds of organizations coming together. And that was a really great networking opportunity for a lot of us to see each other face to face in physical space. And face to face is key because it was during the height of the mandates. And during that time, DC was on a full mandate for the face mask, which we completely rebuked that. And we were like, fuck that. I mean, I'm always like that. I won't get into that right now. I won't steer us down that, even though they're totally connected, but
save that for the after party, innit?
Yeah.
So we did the you know, we all like met each other face to face, didn't wear the masks, and it was an amazing time to like see each other's smiles, especially during a time when a lot of us were living in places where you didn't see a face out in public for like at all. Well, you know, so it was powerful.
The first time we guys met was at the Speakers Corner event in was it Brighton? Brighton. Yeah, us the first time we met in real life, Iris, Birdie, and
the womb stream,
was in Brighton, because we've all done this on the Zoom, and it was so nice to put a face to them.
Yeah,
it was.
And
one of the first time I met Birdie, and it was like, oh, hello. I always thought she was the same height as me. She's not.
No, everybody said
Birdie.
that all day. I had that. Everybody was going, "You're so tall. You're so tall." And I was looking at everybody like this. Like, I was like,
how tall is Birdie, y'all?
We need a height check. How tall are you?
How tall are you, Birdie?
How tall am I? Oh, I know this. 5'9".
Shut up.
She's taller though, I swear. I think because you expect her to be at a certain height.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. It's just
like,
turfs
you're
are
really
tiny.
Like you like 3 inches tall, so
Well, one of the things that we're also trying to do. So I kind of started with Jay. I mean, we had done some of these events, but Jennifer Thomas started having kind of speakers corners events, kind of in a like on the East Coast location. So she was doing them in Chicago, and then she did Philly and Pittsburgh, and kind of doing some. And I was hosting her on my live stream so we could spread the news. And then, you know, what we really tried to do is get other women to do them, because, you know, unlike, you know, kind of you all doing it when Posey is saying, go here, go here, go here, you know, we can't wait for one central organizer to do it. We need other women to step up, and that has been happening, you know. Femax News has been doing them. Pinwheel Art, Alex, who's Pinwheel Art, has been doing them. Kelly K, who's this really cool former military woman who's speaking out about the issue in terms of what's happening in the military. She's done them, and you know, and I've offered
Femmes United.
Yeah, I've offered to any woman in the United States, if you want to do that one in your town, I will amplify it on my platform. You'll do it. I'll put it out there so we can spread this message.
We all want to elevate women's voices, don't we? And I know that's something Kelly J. Keane, you know, people think that she's all about this one woman show, but she just wants all of the speakers' corners in all of the countries and all of the towns. She wants us all to be getting out there and making more noise, really, isn't it?
That was
I really
one of
want to speak to that because, you know, we need women at all levels speaking on this issue. And I really want to see all women move more towards trying to see where we can work together and versus like the constant criticisms. And I know that sometimes criticism is necessary for growth and to, you know, point things out that are important. But you know, you mentioned like, oh, people think Kelly J's a one-woman show and stuff. And it's like, we need some women that are going to be out there and be that bold person who's going to, you know, take on letting all the attention be on them and get it, not in like they're taking up the attention way, but like we need women who are going to be bold and aren't scared to get all of that attention, right? Yeah. Like, and we need women who are going to speak to this issue in the way that she does speak to this issue and the way that she reaches people. And we also need women, like every single one of us has a different way, every single one of us on this call right now has a different way of coming at this issue. We're coming from a different background. We have a different style of talking about it. We have a different voice. We have different arguments that we highlight. We have different talents and different skills that we bring to the table. And that's fucking amazing. I usually don't swear on these things, but like, that's amazing. And we need that. We need a diversity of voices and a diversity of tactics. That's extremely important. And that's part of how we're going to reach more women, because no one person can reach everybody. Like you could put me up there and there's a section of people that only I will be able to reach, but the rest of them aren't going to listen to me. Just like Amy Souza. So there's a section of people that are going to listen to her and the rest aren't going to.
It's like marketing 101 is to pick your target audience and speak to them. So we all need different target audiences and we speak to them. What were you going to say, Birdie?
I was going to say, when I went to the Brighton event, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. And one thing that did impress me, because obviously my fella's a musician, so I've been to events and I've done things like be on the merch stall and stand there and listen to all the bands and everything. And one thing that really impressed me is that Kelly J stands there and listens to every single woman. And she does it at every event and she shows up every month. And that's not necessarily an easy thing to do. I don't think it's easy. And she doesn't like, when the woman comes up on the mic, she doesn't like quiz them on who they are and what their background or what their beliefs are. She just lets them speak. Like you said, let women speak. And that's something that nobody else is doing. And also, not a lot of people can be bothered to do that shit. I know that I can't commit myself to showing up every month to making sure other people can speak and then stand there all day and make sure everybody's okay and organize it and promote it and all this shit. I wouldn't know where to begin with that. That sounds overwhelming to me. That's not my personality type. So this does come down to personality types as well. And the good thing is, we're like, women are half the planet. So I'd hope that we're different. I'd hope that we're not all the same. We're not like clones of each other, because that would be fucking weird, wouldn't it? If we all found out that we're just like robots.
Right. And it's almost like all this like fake diversity that they push as like overshadowing the fact that like we actually are really diverse, and we should be highlighting our like this diversity that we have.
Well, like we're a diverse group of women here just in this conversation, but it's not intentional. We've not sit down and with a tick box like got this one, you know, and it's organic, and that's the way diversity should be. If you've got a common platform, then all different women from different backgrounds will come along and want to say something, I think, you know.
Can I say something? My auntie D is on the phone and she's on speaker. She's listening. She just called me. So I said, do you want to say anything? And she said, I don't know, but I have a friend that wants to get in touch with you. And I said, send her my way. But Deb, do you want to say anything?
I want to say something about women behind bars.
Please.
All right.
I did 10 years. I've been out less than 2. I entered late in my life, and the portrayal of women behind bars is so wrong and so politically messed up and so misinterpreted that people don't really have a clue. Women don't rape each other in prison. Prison guards rape women in prison all the time. I was in Edna Mayhem Correctional Center in New Jersey. 15 guards just went to prison for the abuse against women, and I was there through all of that. I have so many stories I could tell you, so many nightmares, women being killed, women being tortured, women being beaten, and women being physically, sexually, emotionally, and mentally abused. There's one thing to pay for your crime by being put behind bars. There's another to be pay in that way. And it's one of the biggest kept secrets. They act like they do so much. I mean, yes, people commit crimes and they go to jail for it, but the abuse of women behind bars is something that really needs to be exposed. And I guess that's all I want to say for now about that.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
If you look at the Edna Mayhem Correctional Center in New Jersey, you can see there's a lot going on there. They're threatening to close the prison. It's so bad. And now men just have to say they identify with being a woman and they'll put them in there. So now 3 women are pregnant by men from other prisons who are also prisoners who have been placed in the women's prison system. And that's growing by leaps and bounds. So it's so bad. And nobody wants to talk about it.
Well, we're talking about it and we put it out there, and we have, I feel like we have at least like 1,000 viewers, at least, not more. And we just spread it, and we're going to keep talking about it, and we're never going to shut the fuck up about it until something happens about it. Because did you see, Debbie, did you see that Biden, even though he made this executive order, trans women are women, but then he pulled back and was like, 'cause he's such a warmonger, he's like, oh, but trans women have to they have to do the draft. They gotta sign up for the draft. Debbie, did you hear about that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
What a shitty pants. What a
To be
shitty pants,
honest,
Biden.
I'm not that bothered if
Biden
they're gonna.
knows.
I'm happy if they go to one.
And retired.
Yeah.
Just too tired for all of it. And we're all tired of him.
Yeah, we are all tired of him.
I'm surprised the ACUL hasn't created
ACLU?
much about that.
Yeah, does the
You know, normally they
ACLU
jump
do
on 'em.
anything for the women in prison, or are they just trying to get the men into prisons?
It's such a corrupt prison system, you wouldn't believe it. And people give money to the prison system to better the living conditions for the women, and they buy themselves new office furniture with it, the administrative department and the people who run it. They throw barbecues for the guards, and it's so bad. Like, it's incredibly, I spent 10 years, the stories I could tell you, you would not believe. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I have a friend, and I'm going to put her in touch with you, Tania, who's willing to talk more, tell her story, and wants to write a book. Has a lot written on it, is looking for someone to help her publish. So she did 5 with me while she was in there.
That's awesome. I will.
And she stabbed a man who was it was her, I believe, her husband, but it was physical abuse, and she defended herself.
Good for her.
And she got 5 years. She got 5 years. She
shouldn't have
didn't
gotten-
die.
Yeah.
You know,
Fuck
and
that.
she's got
Even
another
if he
3
did.
years parole now that she's out. So it's, yep.
Well, good
She
for
didn't get
her.
locked up. She did, you know.
Sorry, I just want to make clear I was being sarcastic about the ACUL.
okay.
Because we know
I know,
who
I know
fight
the ACLU don't
for.
do shit. Chase Strangio, if you ever see this, we know all about you, you nasty little
They're
girl.
fighting to keep the men in with the women, aren't they?
This is one of the things that's so frustrating about all this. What's happening is
Y'all
that
appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Debbie said, thanks for keeping up the work. She appreciates
Thank you.
y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and speaking on the show, because it is so important that these voices get out there, because they're so invisible in the public discourse, and it's so good that we have the opportunity to
hear, yeah.
let women speak.
Tanya's asked me quite a few times, and it's taken me a while to be able to agree to speak with her about it, but I'm glad that I did.
I love
Thank
you,
you.
Mama.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you, okay?
All right, I love
I
you
got
so
to
much.
get back to work.
You get back to work.
Keep up the good work, girls. You go.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was good.
That was
Aw.
hard to
That was
hear.
good.
It's hard to hear things like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's hard to think about like getting put in prison and sort of like it's bad enough being in prison, isn't it? It's just like you're away from your family, you're on your own, you don't know anyone in there. And the worst thing you can think of is that it's not the other prisoners that are the danger, it's the guards. And there's nothing the other prisoners can do. They're all in there as well in the same situation. I don't know, it's just hard to hear, hard to stomach.
Yeah.
You know, I think it is incredible how invisible these women are. And you know, if we think we're not getting our, you know, story about what's happening to women in general to be on regular media, you know, the voices of incarcerated and formerly incarcerated women are really not being shown. And I do think that that is the power of what we are doing right here, right now. And I do think ultimately that's the power of social media, because what you know, big government and big tech, you know, doesn't know is that we are using these platforms to speak our own stories in our own voices, our own values, and share this information and disseminate it amongst each other. And I do try to, you know, sort of say that to people, because I remember one year when I was just getting into this, Jennifer Billick sent a Christmas note to every single person who had reposted her, and just said, you know, thank you for reposting, because I couldn't, you know, she couldn't make her blog happen without the amplification. And it really spoke to me about the power of this amplification and dissemination of information among the networks that we create, which is that's why these networks really are important. And unfortunately, that's why it's so devastating when they shut down, you know, Reddit channels or Mumsnet or things like that, where we do disseminate information amongst each other, because there is really a power in this. And I want to also say, I spoke to a woman a few days ago who this I think it pertains to this, but it also goes to what we were saying a little bit before about you know, women can get frustrated because they want to be part of certain groups, or they're not part of certain groups, or they don't like certain people, or they do like certain people, or people criticize Posey, or they, you know, it's like you have critiques of these things, and maybe you do, maybe you have critiques of other women, or you don't like it, or that you wanted to be a part of a group and you're not. But the great thing is about this, like, ultimately, there's not a lot of us speaking out on this field publicly. You know, I mean, there's a lot of us all together, but there's not a lot speaking publicly. And I really encourage and welcome any woman, like, just if you want to be a major player in this, step on the field, step on the field, be a player.
No, this is one thing that I feel like I didn't have any skills before I got here, and I did lots of things, and I just want to empower all the women looking at this from the outside or what have you. You have more skills than you would ever realize until you start to utilize them, and you meet women who have got maybe not the same skills as you, but different skills. You can get together and you can do amazing things with hardly anything. And I think this is one thing, going back to what we were saying about when women get together, like, I feel like the powers that be really don't know how to deal with women uniting. There's a great quote from a suffragette speech, Emmeline Pankhurst, talking about a woman's revolution and what that means. And she's got this line, basically, it's like, when women are rebelling, you've got no idea where it comes from. It could be a maid, it could be the mistress in the house, it could be anybody, because women as a class cut across all different boundaries, and having all these different voices and all these different women empowered is a really powerful thing, and a thing that women have got going for themselves that I think is really difficult for the the establishment, however you define that, they don't really know how to manage women when we all get together and get angry, you know.
And I think one of their biggest ways that they fight us and silence us is through propaganda, and the non-stop propaganda that frames everything that we have to say as something that's like violent and hateful and bigoted.
Yeah.
And also the censorship of social media, because social media is effectively the new public square. And that's where we should be able to go to share our voices. But social media is also privately owned by entities that have vested interest in silencing us from making these critiques against the trans agenda and against the attack on females' reproductive technology, which is what this is all really about, right? So, of course, these huge social media platforms, which are completely invested in this technocratic takeover of our female reproductive technology, of course, they are silencing us and putting the ban and the kibosh on every time we try to speak up anywhere online. So censorship and just control of the narrative through the propaganda and control of the airways, everything that people see on a screen. They control what children learn in school. They control everything through this tight control of the media, which is only owned by what, 5-6 corporations, and control the majority of what all of us see.
Behind those 5-6 corporations is 1 or 2 corporations.
Exactly. And what's behind that? We don't, you know, we don't know, but we can see that there's a clear collusion to shut down our voices. And if social media is the place where everyone is going to speak and we're being censored there, we have to realize that it's a tool, it's a powerful tool, but there's only so far that we can use that tool. And it's good that they can't necessarily ban all of us, right? So that's one good thing as well. There's so many people speaking up about this. One person gets banned and it's like whack-a-mole, you know, like somebody gets banned over here and there's 30 people right away being like, how dare you ban her? Right. You know, like we're going to yell even louder. So they can't really deal with all of that. But the control through the propaganda and the indoctrination of the public school system is where, you know, we're really, I think, going to face the biggest challenges here. And that means we need to utilize not just online social media, but getting out in person, physically in spaces and disrupting this ideology where it rears its head in our public libraries, in the schools, on our sports teams, in community events, even at religious things. Like this is happening. So we need to meet these ideologies where they're being forced and where people are that have power to push these things through. Even if it's on the lowest level of like a school board, they have some power and they're pushing it through. So if we go there physically and disrupt these things, you know, sooner or later, like we can't be ignored. So I think it's really important that we utilize this diversity of avenues of getting our voices out, not just online, but in person. And that's what's really powerful about the Speaker's Corner and about, you know, Kelly J going to all of these different cities, because it's showing women like, come out wherever you are. And yes, there's going to be resistance, and there already is. And yeah, they're deranged. We know how they behave. But, you know, if we don't speak up, I mean, this is it. Like, it's speak up now or speak up never, because we're about to be crushed under this totalitarian boot of censorship and just what's coming with digital currencies and social credit systems. I mean, all of us have a social credit of -1 million at this point. We're probably all terrorists. Like,
we won't be able to eat soon.
And
I say it in a joking way, but like there was a woman in the UK recently who was refused an operation that she paid for privately because she requested a female only staff. And no trans women, and then she was refused the operation, and now her health is deteriorated. And I feel like there were all these organizations, these corporations who are acting like the moral arbiters of all of us. And it's like, excuse me, you're the ones who have created these white supremacist, anti-environmental, all of these problems in society. were created by you, and now you are demanding the right to tell us how to fix them and silencing anybody who tells you that
it's not lawful either what they're doing.
It's not.
They're going
It's not.
above the law and reenacting what they think the law should be, and then
Yeah.
expecting the law to go along with it.
Yeah.
It's fucking disgusting.
And
People
in
need to watch out
America,
for
the
this
law
shit as
is
well.
going along with it. In America, the law is going along with it, and a lot of the police are going along with it as well.
Yep, that's
Well, we
happening
have
here
that
too.
here as well. We call
Yeah.
it Stonewall law. You know, Stonewall go along to all these private corporations and public ones and enact their law, and these places are going along with it. You know, this is where we all coming in, and places, organizations like Sex Matters who are saying, no, hold on, that's not the law.
Yeah.
You're breaking the law.
Well,
So we're fixing all these holes that have been created by Stonewall and their like. But with this woman, that's this recent case, it's actually a private hospital that's American owned, and they're running their law, their organization according to American law, which they can't.
yeah,
So
they're in the UK. They can't do that. And the
Yeah,
thing
they
is
can't.
that we've got to watch out for this shit because, you know, with the Stonewall Diversity Champion Scheme and everything, that is the social credit system. That's what that is. And people don't recognise that. They've got to watch out for this shit because that'll be them next. You can turn someone down for life-saving, not even turn them down. They cancelled it at the last minute, this life-saving operation, because she didn't want to use pronouns. They said that they don't agree with her beliefs, or their beliefs don't align. And it's like, we don't live in a country where doctors get to choose that. That is not how it works, but they've decided it is.
Yeah, it is really insane. And I think, you know, that I do think we have to start exploring a lot of avenues to speak out. Like K.Lang, you were talking about, you know, talking out in other places. And I don't know if you guys were aware, just as you were having the Hampstead pool, let women swim, which I loved the images that you did for that, Birdie, they're so great. But we had to let Julie swim because there was a woman in my town who got banned from her YMCA for objecting to a man who was
crazy.
Helping a little kid get changed in the
touching
ladies'
little
locker room.
girls. It's so sick. We did a big event in my town where we got sort of smashed by protesters, but post the event, I've been going every 2 weeks or so to my local city council. Now, it's not like they are necessarily responding to me, but all city council meetings, and I don't know if it's true where you are recorded. So for me,
we have the same.
The win is not necessarily that I'm changing their mind, like these people who are just like looking at me like as I'm talking, you know, I know I'm not like getting through to them, but this is on public record. This is on government record.
So good.
Every time I go there, it's on record that someone objected. And I think it would be kind of cool if we could organize it like a mass, like everyone goes to their city council that week and we all say the same speech, like just like, and we could do one of those videos like Stella Rose just did for the I Stand with the Women of Iran, where we could like put the images of like, I say this part of the speech and it goes to another woman and another woman. Like,
do they give you how many minutes do they give you in like where you're at?
3 minutes.
That's a perfect amount for a speech. That, and I think one thing I've seen in America, especially the clips that have gone viral, which is people going to school board meetings, because I know pushing back in schools. And I know, Tania, you're in you're near Loudoun County. You're in Virginia, aren't you? And I know Loudoun County has become one of the focal points for the pushback.
Because of their rapist student
against that in the schools. I don't know.
I watched Amy. I just want to say I did watch your last one that you did. I think it was yesterday or the day before, and you just spoke so fast. I mean, I could understand, you know, everything you were saying was going through, but it was just, you could tell your time was limited, but it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I have it written down and I got to get it all out.
Yeah.
It's awesome. They only give us 1 or 2 minutes in Virginia. I spoke up at one. It was like for a soft bill. It was like to repeal. It was to repeal the governor's bill before that was to, like, you know, the Virginia Department of Education. All the schools have to comply with their, like, you know, trans bullshit. And it was just to repeal that and to bring the power back to the districts to choose for themselves and between their school boards and their voters, make them accountable to their voters. And it passed the first community or whatever, like the first meeting. And when I spoke, it was like me, Natasha, Grover, and I'm like, and there was a couple other, like maybe 2 other women that like I didn't know, they were just like speaking out like in favor. And then there was all these other people and the ACLU Virginia's representative. And this was like a very like small committee, like in the school, you know what I mean? They're like having the meeting in the school. And it was just, she was so, I was looking at her little box on Zoom and I was like, she was looking so mad. And it felt great. And I actually like went back and recorded like me and Natasha speaking just so I could like have it saved. But it went to the next committee where it died. They didn't even warn anybody that when that was happening. They didn't let anyone speak at the next committee. And it was a tie. So it just died, which, you know, I learned a lot about local politics because of that whole like happening. But now it's like Youngkin's like, well, none of this shit's going down, okay? And everyone's like, we're marching, and it's like, we tried to give you guys a nice little softball bill where y'all could have just decided amongst your communities as one would in a community how we should deal with these things. And y'all were like, no, we want our pet trans children. No, we're trans housing by proxy. No. And so you got what you got and you get what you get. And now this is what you get. You don't get shit. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Can I ask you, going back to Speakers Corners, can I ask you about, because I noticed the last couple, before Kelly's one started, the last couple of events that were run by Jay Thomas, I think, was definitely one of them. There were a lot of protesters who basically drowned you out. Is there any, I mean, obviously you don't need to discuss deep tactics, but is there any way that you're thinking of being able to counteract that? Because although you've got free speech, so have they. So the police will not step in.
Yeah, actually, Amy, I was going to ask you if you would speak to a little bit of the lashback that you all saw at the Let Julie Swim protest in Port Townsend that you organized. Because there was a lot of crazed, violent reactions.
Yeah, we saw some brand new tactics like that one. They used their voices and their sound noises, but we also had a guy, we ended up nicknaming him the Worm, who was crawling on the ground to get between women's legs, like literally like spreading women's legs and crawling between their legs and trying to get to our equipment, which was horrendous. You know, and it was a useful thing that we did is that we positioned ourselves with our back to a wall. So that was a good strategy that we had from the get-go, because they couldn't at least surround us from all sides.
Yeah.
But you know, I had got my permit in advance. I had talked multiple conversations with the chief of police. He claimed that we had multiple conversations and email exchanges, and then he said after the fact that I never specifically like used the words like, can I please have police protection? So I never asked for police protection. I don't know what he thought those conversations were about, that I was just like
Right.
calling him multiple times, being
Hang out.
like, hey, like, what's your favorite color? Like, what movies do you like? What bands do you like? Hey, you know, like, I don't know what he thought those conversations were about, if they weren't about me making sure that we had protection.
Yeah.
But regardless, on the day, even if I had never asked for protection, on the day of, there were multiple officers standing around
Right.
watching 80-year-old women get kicked to the floor.
I like that you guys held arms, or like held like linked arms. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, we tried a lot of different strategies in the moment that some worked, some didn't work. I think we have to keep being more and more strategic.
Yeah.
Iris, to your question, one thing that we can do, that we are doing, is we are making sure we have better mics for the on-site event, because the mic that I had like at our event, and I know the ones that they had like in Philly and Chicago, were just like one of those tiny little, you know, like a mic that you have if you're just like talking to a friend and no one is bothering you, it's perfectly fine. But we now have got professional, what do you call it? Like like the ones that reporters use on site. So these are much more powerful and they go directly to the phone. So we hope to capture much better sound. I think the sound assault, unfortunately, I think the sound assault, I would love to like strategize about a better way to contend with those counter protesters. One thing that we have been exploring is, in a sense, switching, if the sound assault is bad enough, switching the event to some sort of a silent visual event, you know. So the event, you know, if the sound gets too bad, you know, all of a sudden we switch to a visual event where women, you know, take out pieces of tape, put it across their mouths, you know, stand in silence, so we can still have a memorable event where we are speaking with our body language.
Women will speak even when silenced.
Visually that would be incredible as well, if that's caught on camera. All these fucking idiots screaming at you while you're all just standing there in silence. That would be incredible on like the news and stuff.
The silencing of women is in itself a message. And I think with these audio devices that they use, they also used some in Madison, Wisconsin, when I was there for the Speakers Corner. WLRN hosted a Speakers Corner, and the Courage Calls to Courage event and the Sisters for Sisters conference, all at like the same weekend. And a bunch of us turned out for it. And there was a huge bunch of counter protesters there, and they were using just all kinds of devices to make so much noise that like we couldn't even hear ourselves think. Like you could like feel the sound like reverberating through your body. Women were like getting headaches, like you know. And I just want to point out that is the type, some of the sounds that they're using, this is sonic weapons. It's sonic warfare. It's not like, oh, they were being loud using noisemakers. No, it's audio abuse. You could break someone's eardrums with that.
Yeah.
Not to mention people that have any type of sensory issue for whatever illness or medication. Yeah, like.
I saw, I think the one you're talking about, they actually went up to a woman's ear with their what's it called, megaphone in her ear. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, honking
That's
horns
really bad.
like directly in our eardrums. And that type of it's interesting because these people, they often fancy themselves as subversive to the state, like there's some kind of radicals, like they are Antifa, like don't get me started on that idea, because they are the fascists, but
Yeah.
you know, they have this idea like they're somehow these like radicals or something. And meanwhile, I'm like, you're using literal crowd control tactics that the police use to break up protests. You're using the same tactic. Of these
Radical
like audio
dickheads.
devices.
They devour.
and also the police are protecting them. Essentially, they're being protected by the police.
Well,
Like Amy should have never had to say, "Oh, please, will you protect us?" That's bullshit, because that's what you're supposed to be doing, right? That's what is in your job description. That's what you claim that you're doing. So why the hell do we as individual citizens have to make sure you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, what you've been empowered by the state to do?
Well,
Now
and
what we have to say,
property over people.
The chief of police said in the newspaper, well, you know, that's what you get. Like, that's what you can expect when you go to an event like this. Like when you walk into a mosh pit, you're going to get knocked around. And I was like, well, I did not sign up to go into a mosh pit. That is not what I signed up for.
You hear the language that was used? Knocked around. That is language of physical violence. That's actually language that we know usually signifies something that maybe like would happen in a domestic situation from a male partner to a female partner. That's that language.
Do you think that I've got a question. So do you think with the defund the police thing and everything like that, I'm quite surprised that the police would even protect these dickheads, because they're after these policemen to be out of a job, right? They don't like the police. But do you think that there's been such a hostility created between the police and everybody else that they're taking it out on the wrong people? The police. The police don't care about you, but for some reason they care about the dickheads that want them defunded. I don't understand it.
I think they just care about like
Property.
Not looking bad, right?
Because the other thing was, so this happened, I should put up a video of it. I have a video of it. We went to the YMCA. There's a local newswoman who got a petition going and got over 10,000 signatures to get Julie back instated in the pool. So we brought this petition to the YMCA. I'll make this short. They locked the door on us. They wouldn't let us in. They slipped out a business card with a little blue and pink trans sticker stapled to the business card. And then they called the police on us, and the police escorted us off the property and told us if we didn't leave, we would get a citation for trespassing. I'm arguing with the police because I'm like, what are you even doing? Like, you are not protecting little girls from getting touched. And he was like, well, it would be very hard for me to prosecute. It would be very hard to prove sexual assault. And I was like, they are below the age of consent.
Yeah.
And he admits in his own interview, he admits to touching them. They've already been violated.
God.
We know this in his own words. So I'm
So
arguing.
these people are just lazy cowards that are trying to pick the easier route, is to pick on the women.
He kept repeating to me, I have to follow the law. So what I heard was, I'm protecting the YMCA. I don't have to protect little girls and women.
Yeah.
And if you want to prove that it's assault, I don't safeguard you from getting assaulted. I can only prosecute after the fact, after it's been proven.
Wow.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, in Madison, we were also told, we were completely surrounded by mostly men, big men, not just like some little twerpy guys, like big men who were very aggressive, saying, wearing signs and symbols that were like, towards violence, like kill your local fascists, as if we're the fascists, right? And like, I don't know, just stupid stuff like that. And then they're saying things to us in these like deep, aggressive voices, like, I'll fucking kill you and stuff like that. And it's like, what more do you need? We're completely surrounded. We're being screamed at. They're saying they're going to kill us. They're going to hurt us. They're going to rape us. And the police do absolutely nothing.
It's like you have freedom of speech, but you don't have freedom to issue death threats and to intimidate.
Do you have freedom? Yeah, exactly.
Like,
And
you know what I mean? Like you can say what you like, which is a great thing about America, but it sounds like you can't just say.
But no, but the thing is, if it was the other way around,
No.
if it was you threatening them and saying you're going to
Exactly.
kill these, but even no matter how big these dudes are,
Right.
if you said you were going to kill him, you would be arrested.
And
Yeah,
you know
because
what?
we are responsible for violence against these men.
And if you went to their event, they wouldn't hesitate in attacking you. Look at Fred Sargent.
Mhm.
You know, he went to an event peacefully, but he got attacked.
Mhm.
You know, I one of the things I keep saying, and one of the things that I actually sort of said out into my, like, I said angrily to my town, because there's like literally like women who used to be my friends were like flipping me off and calling me a cunt, and like was so sick. It was just like, I was just like looking at them like shocked. Like I cannot believe you're like condoning this male violence right now. Like I cannot believe it. But one of the things that I said to them, I was like, you know, thank you for telling on yourself. Like this is all being recorded and you are telling on yourself. You are telling on yourself a better story than I could ever tell about you. You are telling on yourself. And I think,
always do.
Yeah.
So repulsive.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut your rant.
no, I was just like,
I got so angry. I was like, they always do. They always tell on themselves.
They do, you know,
Absolute
and
fucking
I do-
arsehole wankers. There you go,
I do
sorry.
think that's what's going to get captured by this documentary. You know, I don't know if did we talk about this earlier, that the Antifa in Portland are saying that they're raising money to purchase weapons.
Yeah, I told my fellow about this earlier. How stupid can you fucking be to go on the internet and say, hey, can I raise money to buy weapons to commit a crime?
And of course, the guy who's doing it and raising it is on disability.
Of course he is.
I can guarantee you he also supports tighter gun control. You know?
Yes, probably.
Please help me raise money to like kill some women in public, please.
Yeah, because that's a good look, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's not fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Look. I just wondered, like, so Posey has been West Coast for your events. Is she moving East Coast? Are you gonna plan to go to any events, K.Lang? Like what's going on like with the next Posey?
Yeah, actually, so I'm reading off of the tour poster because it just happens to be in front of my screen, the one that the Portland Antifa people posted, and they put a big X over it and an X over Kelly's face. So yeah, they already did LA. San Francisco is next. Is that Saturday, Amy? What is it?
Yep, Saturday.
Saturday is San Francisco, and then they'll be in Portland on the 25th. Amy's going to be there in Portland. Are you going to be in Seattle too, Amy?
And I'll be in Seattle. Yep.
And I know that there's like a big crew of the women from Sovereign Women Speak going to the Seattle event. They're trying to get something together for Austin. There are some women in Chicago. I know Jeanette Cooper from Partners for Ethical Care, Carrie Bruss, and who else is doing Chicago? Do you remember, Amy?
Beth Lowe.
Beth Lowe.
And I know Jay Thomas will be there. She'll be in Chicago as well. She's helping organize as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think Thistle will attend Chicago. Thistle from WLRN.
I know some women that are going to attend too. It's going to be awesome.
And you're going to be in Loudoun County.
Yes.
Are you going to go anywhere else, Tania?
Huh?
Are you planning on going anywhere else?
Probably DC if I can. I really would like to go to Philly.
Yeah, come to Philly.
I'm gonna go to Philly.
I work Sundays and like that's when I work. And I already took off last weekend because I had a mental breakdown. Sorry, the dogs are like fighting behind me. I'm like, look at these freaks. Oh, now you're stopping because you're in trouble.
They got caught.
Yeah. They're like,
Chloe, Mom.
Well, hopefully you can make it to Philly. I know
I will.
You'll try to. Yeah.
I mean, anything can happen when it comes to me. You know, I'm like, anything could happen. I might lose my job.
Anything can happen. Yes. And then it's culminating in New York City, which I think by the time it reaches New York City and the East Coast, like Philly, everybody's these people who are trying to organize against us are going to be probably have a plan to come and meet us out there, and that's fine. Like, you know, they're entitled to say what they want to say as well, but we're expecting them. We are going to be planning around how to keep women as safe as possible and just to like make sure that our message gets heard, but also we understand like the type of risk that we're taking coming up, showing up in like a big public park in the middle of Manhattan, saying things like this, you know. So we understand the risk that's being incurred, and we think that it's more important to get this message out. And we want to show also that we're not scared, because if we keep acting like we're scared, then other women out there that are that really want to speak up and are feeling silenced, they're going to say, oh, well, you know, I think I better just not. Yeah. And there are already too many examples out there of women being punished and penalized for speaking about this. So we really want to show that also you can be, it's a very empowering thing to speak out about this. You are standing up for yourself. You're standing up for women everywhere. You're standing up for future generations. Yeah. You're standing up for humanity. And we really want women to occupy and embody that space and take up physical space in the real world.
Yeah.
And
one thing I've heard a few women saying, oh, I'm scared because this happened. And I just want to say to them, you're letting them silence you. Mm-hmm. You know, show up and just be there. Don't let them silence you, because that, you know, that's what they're doing to you. Don't let them do that to you. That's the point of this speaker's corner.
Yeah, as well, when you get there and you see all the other women, it does make you feel braver, especially when you're in that. Even don't matter if it's like 5 women or 100 women, you're gonna feel more brave standing next to another woman.
Yeah, it's like me too, you know. So you were saying at the beginning, like, you know, when somebody learns how to say no, it's like when one woman says no, all the other women get empowered to also just say no.
That's
no,
right.
thank you.
Totally. No, thank you.
No, thank you.
And we are the silenced majority. I mean, most people in America don't believe that this is the right thing to be being pushed on women or children. Most people recognize basic biological material reality in front of their faces. But the reality is that the loudest people, the ones that have the most funding, the ones that are being empowered by corporations and big banks and big pharma, and the ones that have the big platforms on the media and are getting funded by all these big nonprofits, they're the ones that are trying to force this. So, you know, it's the majority of us that are resisting it, but it's still a small group that are speaking out about it. So like, for example, if you see one of these posts online, sometimes you can get like 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 people like and agree with something that's being said. Now imagine if we had 10,000 people show up in Midtown Manhattan and say,
right,
we said no to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it would be completely different. It would send a different message. And the reality is also, not only are they silencing us and censoring us online, but we're being kept off of the mainstream media. It's a very, very small window of what gets to be said on mainstream media. And there's a very small group of people who are tapped to say it. And then there are, with the media control, they have inserted so many voices into this narrative, so many talking heads, so many celebrities, politicians, people who are being funded by God knows what. And they have muddied up the narrative, and they are watering down the deeper message that us women have. And they, they're really just trying to co-opt this resistance and lead it into something that can continue to prop up the state and continue the subjugation of women and girls. So, and if you're not sure what I mean by that, like I'm saying that, a lot of who gets platforms speaking out against this issue in America is like a white man who is a Christian conservative background, and they'll get like a big platform, or they'll be interviewed on mainstream television, and then people hear their argument and they say, oh yeah, that makes sense, but then they get swayed towards all these other ideas that continue to uphold gender stereotypes and sexual stereotypes. So, we're fighting against that type of co-optation as well. We're also fighting against, they now have, men who identify as trans all over American mainstream television on the news, and they refer to them as women. They call them she and her. They allow these men who identify as women and take up our spaces to pretend to be a voice of resistance to this, to transgenderism itself, and to especially trans indoctrination in the schools. They pretend they're against it, or they act like they're the voice against it. All the while they're moving the public further and further towards incrementally accepting this idea that men can be women.
Right.
It's they're shifting the Overton window, and they're closing down debates. And
Exactly.
This is what's so important about the Speaking for Women's events. We're trying to build awareness about what's going on with women, state by state, brick by brick, public square by public square. I don't want to say it, but it's almost like build back turfy.
Well, and we're presenting that counter narrative, the counter narrative to the Matt Walsh is doing everything,
right.
Like when he's asking like, oh, where are the feminists? Like Kelly J. Keen's documentary is going to be like, boom, here we are.
Here we are. Here we are.
Yeah. But we know that they try to silence us because they know we're speaking the truth.
Well, do you know what always makes me chuckle about Matt Walsh is he's always like, where are the feminists? And I'm like, where we are. You've stolen all our work.
You take everything from us, you, the comedians, everybody. You all know where we're at because you always are using our content to make money off of. You take our labor and run with it. Anyways, we're gonna wrap up the show. We can all like kick it when it's over, but we're gonna wrap this up. Everybody come out. Kelly J is in the States. Get hyped. Come to all the dates. Don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. Don't worry about what are the details. What are the details? Just know the city, and we will get to you. We will get to you. We will make sure that you know where you gotta be, and we will get you there. Just reach out to your ladies and be there. Come on out. It's gonna be a good fucking time. Get hyped. Think about what you want to say now, so when you get there, you can practice it and practice it and practice it. And you get there and you get on that mic and you're like, yeah, bitch. You go crazy.
Yeah. Get on that.
Yes, and make sure you tune into the live stream on Amy's YouTube, on the Known Heretic YouTube. We're going to be live streaming every event. We're going to be getting little interviews with women. We're going to try to start up a call line. So even some of you sisters in the UK can call in and offer any encouragement. And so that any women who can't make it, some woman who's in the middle of absolute nowhere, but she's like, I feel galvanized, I want to say something, you know, we want to hear
Yes.
from everyone. So meet us there, come join us on the chats and the live stream. And just thank you to you sisters in the UK for getting this call together and for everything that you're doing. This has been amazing and so heartening to see all of your faces and your smiles and just hear all the brilliant things that you all have to say. I'm just so astonished by how just smart and talented and thoughtful and caring all of you are, and everyone on this call is, and just our, you know, the women who are organizing around this movement. It's super powerful, and yeah, we are going to win because they can't win because everything they're doing is anti-life and anti-human.
Absolutely.
And we'll fail sooner or later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sooner if we have anything to do with it.
We won't
And we do.
lose.
Nope.
We never lose.
We never lose.
Bye. Right, I'm going to press stop now. Hang on a minute.